When you have serious economic mismanagement and unsustainable debt levels, then you must be willing and ready to confront the problem when the day of reckoning comes. We are today where the day of reckoning for the people of Kenya has come, and William Ruto is trying to run away from it. He thinks he will sort the economic problem by applying political solutions. Try to bring Raila here, bring ODM members, move around Luo Nyanza and some parts of the country on top of motor vehicles to campaign and show that the country is moving. All those people who are attending William Ruto's rallies, as they go back home, they are still... Jimi Wanjigi in 2022 July released his report on a forensic audit report on our debt status. It took him around 4 months to prepare that report. And it was, luckily for us, it was ready before the elections of 2022. And we did even buy advertisement space in the NTV to tell Kenyans the problems of debt. We had hoped that this will pick the national psyche and form part of the conversation going into the elections. But unfortunately, and because of the political heat at the moment, no one paid attention to us. No one actually paid attention to debt as a problem. But just in summary, what we discovered from our debt, our forensic audit, we discovered that in the 10 years, in fact, we edited the report. Let me now use 2013, 2023, because we edited the report after last year. In 10 years, the Kenyan people had paid debt finance of up to 5.4 trillion. But our debt was still 10.3 trillion. So that's actually what picked us, that why is it that we are up to date with our debt payments, but the amount still keeps going up? It never comes down. So what the audit revealed was this, because we went toward the Constitution, the Public Finance Management Act, to just look, what is this legal framework for debt? Surprisingly, it provides that for every debt you are taking, you must get parliamentary approval. That we knew it in the PFM Act. And for every debt you take, you must apply it to a particular project. So we ask, where are the projects that have been funded by this 10 trillion debt? Where is the parliamentary approval that allowed the executives to take this debt? And surprisingly, we found, and you look at all the Appropriations Act from 2013 to 2023, look at all those Appropriation Acts. You will notice Parliament, for example, approved the year 2022 to 2023 a debt of only 300 billion. But National Treasury took a debt of almost 867 billion. So obviously, 567 billion is odious. There's no parliamentary approval. There's no debt. There's no project. It's financing. We flagged that. We went into government when they issue bonds and bills every so often. So we asked, these are debt. Where is this domestic debt being applied? What is it being applied to? Which project is it financing? We now have in our debt books domestic debt of almost 5.4 trillion. 55% of our debts are from local banks. So you ask yourself, 5.4 trillion, if you pump it into an economy for a particular project, every Kenyan will feel the impact of that project, will feel the impact of that money in the economy. Thika Road here alone, the entire project cost 30 billion. But until today, the people who live along Thika Road are feeling the impact of that project to date. The massive infrastructure developments that have taken place along that route, just because of that one road, is felt phenomenally across the country. But now we are talking of 5.4 trillion domestic, total debt of 11 trillion that you've taken. So which are these projects that we are not feeling, we are not seeing? So we discovered that actually people borrow money in the name of the people of Kenya. And the money they borrow, they do not up to any project. What they apply to the people of Kenya is the obligation to pay for that debt. Now, Eurobonds, for example, There have been 7 Eurobonds, but let me pick Eurobond 1. $2 billion US. And this time, even back then, when Raila was still Raila, with Jimi, David Ndi was part of the team. There's a gentleman called Alex Owiti and Jacob Juma. In fact, it's actually Jacob Juma who discovered the Eurobond Heist, because Uhuru's government had said, we are going to borrow Eurobond, take Eurobond, and then move away from the domestic market. So they took the 2 billion Eurobond, but still borrowed 2 billion for the domestic market. So we say, let's follow the money. 1 billion USD, you could trace, part of it went into settling a debt that had been taken by Kibaki. Another portion, you could trace, went to an account, a Central Bank of Kenya account, and then the money came into Kenya. That information was shared by CS Rotich. When we asked for a disclosure of the other 1 billion USD, surprise, surprise, 1 billion US dollar is coming from JP Morgan to an account in Qatar. The account is redacted. You cannot see the name of the recipient and the account number. So debt is actually the bane of our economy. If you listened keenly to this lady from America, the US ambassador, yesterday, she said IMF had hoped to issue some money on the 12th of June. But because of the rejection of the finance bill, they opted not to. And if that money is not released, then Kenya is going to be in a very difficult situation. It is already in a difficult situation, but it's going to get worse. So Kenyans need to pay attention. What happens? William Ruto had hoped that he's going to continue the illegal borrowings, eat part of it and spend some part of it in sustaining the bureaucracy. And he had hoped to camouflage it, he must increase the tax collections. Because as it is today, 80% of his revenue, what we are paying as tax, is going to debt finance. The largest expenditure item out of your revenue books, out of your budget as Kenyans today, is debt finance at 80%. 80 shillings out of every 100. Now, with that kind of a scenario, William Ruto thought that instead of dealing with the debt problem, because that is probably where they are also fudging numbers and eating the money, let me go back to the sovereign, the people of Kenya, and increase their taxes, charges, and levies. That was the story of the Finance Act. Now, remember, you are mopping money out of this economy, and you are sending it, expropriating it abroad to pay for the illegal debt. There is no growth. There was no circulation of that money in this particular economy. So people started feeling pain more and more. And even going forward, the more pain, the more William Ruto is in office, the more pain you are going to feel. It will not reduce, because he's still coming back to this economy to mop out every shilling that he can find, because he doesn't want to confront the monster of debt. Mozambique found itself in this situation with the Tuna Bonds. Same amount, $2 billion US. They were not able to pay. The government had an appetite to keep coming back to them to take the money from their pockets. A group went to court. Also, as in Kenya, we have several groups that have gone to court on the debt issue. We do hope that the court will quickly convene to hear that case. And their court said the $2 billion US that was taken as Tuna Bond was not supported by the laws of Mozambique. The people of Mozambique have no obligation to pay for it. The consequences of that, the then finance minister is in jail. The head of intelligence in Mozambique at the time is in jail. The son of the then president is in jail. Credit Suisse collapsed, and some executives from Credit Suisse, who were the Rangers, the money was coming from Credit Suisse and some Russian bank. Credit Suisse executives are in jail, those who are part of that scheme. So also in Kenya, we will not make any step forward in terms of our economic liberation or even the growth turnaround of this country without dealing with this debt question. Looking into the debt books and tracing every single coin that was borrowed in our names and identifying where Parliament approved of it and which project it financed. Now, it took Uhuru 10 years to get to he borrowed around 8 point something trillion. large part of it is legally borrowed. William Ruto, in 1 year, has borrowed more than 1.7 trillion. When the finance bill was rejected, William Ruto told you that he's going to take 1 trillion from the domestic market because of the rejection of the finance bill. But nobody is going back to the appropriations bill or act that was passed by Parliament. In the Appropriations Act, Parliament only allowed for borrowing of 350 something billion. So where is the 1 trillion coming from? Again, illegal debt. And once they go the route of borrowing in your name illegally, they will tell you is to sustain government, pay salaries, pay whatever it is. It's illegal. Our laws don't allow for borrowing to pay salaries. Our laws only envisage borrowing for a particular project. As I conclude, you will note that the only instance when you can borrow for recurrent expenditure is up to a maximum of 5% of the previous year's collection. Our calculations, that means that you should not borrow more than 100 billion. And that is normally, it is short-term borrowing within the year, it is repaid, and you pay it from what the Central Bank of Kenya maintains, the Central Bank of Kenya overdraft account. And it's only to address liquidity, cash flow issues that may arise. Maybe you need to make this payment quickly, sort out these contractors, whatever it is, short-term. Now, the summary of our findings, as I conclude, was that in 10 years, 2013, 2023, if you remove debt repayments, our total expenditure was 14.6 trillion. In 10 years, 2013, 2023, our total revenue, the money that the Kenyan people collected as tax, was 13.3 trillion. If you are supposed to only borrow to cover the deficit, and that deficit should only be when it comes to project finance, our deficit was only 1.3 trillion. Then why did we borrow 7.7 trillion in that period? Now, those are questions that we must put these people to task on. I'm not worried about William Ruto and his people, in the sense that what they've done, the Ponzi scheme, it's coming to its end. The economy will not balance. There is no money in the people's pocket that they are going to collect. The finance bill has been rejected. They are going to bring it back. It will be rejected again. But even if it passed, there is no money in the people's pockets to sustain those levies and charges and taxes that they're increasing. They are going to have to either confront the debt books or default on the debts. And default is not something that anybody will wish to happen to a country. Because if it is not properly managed, it comes with painful consequences. Argentina is an example. Mozambique, even with their own little odious debt, they face serious economic challenges. But at least they've been able to try to stabilize that economy. Luckily, because it was a new administration. Ghana has struggled. Inflation at some point was even 54%, the percentage of the inflation. So debt default is not something that anybody will wish on their country. But when you have serious economic mismanagement and unsustainable debt levels, then you must be willing and ready to confront the problem when the day of reckoning comes. We are today where the day of reckoning for the people of Kenya has come, and William Ruto is trying to run away from it. He thinks he will sort the economic problem by applying political solutions. Try to bring Raila here, bring ODM members, move around Luo Nyanza and some parts of the country on top of motor vehicles to campaign and show that the country is moving. All those people who are attending William Ruto's rallies, as they go back home, they are still going to be confronted with their economic pain. Even if you give them 1,000 shillings to attend those rallies, that 1,000 shillings in this economy as it is today cannot sustain you even for more than 1 week. They will still be back to their reality. That, to me, is our opportunity, because he will never take away the failed economic system. The opportunity for us is to make sure that we educate these people and we recruit them to become an army that will be championing for a new Kenya, a Kenya about economic emancipation, economic liberation. So we must sell that message that it's about the economic liberation of the people of Kenya. We will turn this into a very volatile political machine that the old politicians will not be able. Tribal mobilization, mtu wetu politics. It is our person on the table. But Kenyans, by coming out on the 18th of June and 25th of June, had shown us that we've moved away from that kind of politics. The crowds you saw in Eldoret and Kericho, those ones could have easily been told they are mtu wetu or William Ruto. But they say no. We believe in a Kenya that makes economic sense to all of us, because there's no special shop for William Ruto's people. There is no special shop for anybody who voted for Kenya Kwanza. There is only one shop for Kenyans, and every Kenyan participates in that economy. We need to capture the people and explain to them and make them our ambassadors for social change. A change, as I said, we define this to be a two-horse campaign. Two horse in the sense, I don't mean in terms of individuals. I mean the sense of what we stand for as Kenyans and what they stand for as politicians. Is it about empowering the people or empowering politicians? Thank you very much, Redemptor.